everyone and welcome back. In today's video I'm going to be colouring in the November page from the printable monthly calendar, and I'm going to be using some Copic markers and coloured pencils and showing you a technique that you can use if you don't have very many markers but you still want to get depth and dimension and shading in your pieces. You can combine marker and coloured pencil to get a really cool effect. So this is the monthly calendar. If you missed my fundraiser video from a couple of weeks back, I designed this printable PDF monthly calendar. It's an open dated calendar, so you write in your own dates, which means that you can start using the calendar whenever you get it. And there are little sections for monthly goals and notes, and the calendar is now on sale again in my Etsy shop. So if you missed the calendar during the fundraiser, you can now pick up a copy if you want one, and there's a link to it in the description box below. So to start with, I'm going to be using a very limited set of Copic markers, and I also have a set of coloured pencils here. You can use, if you want to follow along with this tutorial, you can use any coloured pencils, any marker brand that you like. It really doesn't matter. I'm using, what I've done here is I've used one skin tone, one hair tone, and then a limited colour palette of 3 colours for the rest of the piece. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm just going in and I'm filling in I'm just kind of colour blocking really with the markers, and I'm just laying down a flat layer of colour in everywhere but the hair. In the hair I'm colouring hair as I would normally, and that's by using sort of flicking motions with the marker and following the lines of the strands and leaving a little bit of white showing so that you get a little bit of a highlight in the hair. So I'm just laying down a base coat of marker, and I wanted to do a coloured pencil and marker piece today because I know particularly when you're starting out with markers, whether they're Copic or Pro markers or whatever brand you have, often you don't have very many of them, and in order to get lots of shading and blends, you normally need to use at least 3 different markers in order to get a blend and to do shadows and things. So I just thought I'd show you a technique that I used a lot in the beginning of using coloured pencils with my markers. So using the markers as a base colour to place the base colour down, and then using coloured pencils to add the shading, and the 2 mediums go very well together. You need to make sure that if you're doing this that you put the the Copic marker or the marker down first and then the coloured pencil over it, because the marker nibs tend to pick up the pencil. And I will show you a trick for blending coloured pencil with a colourless blender a bit later on, and you'll see how the colourless blender nib picks up a lot of the pencils. So I wouldn't want to use my markers over colour pencil because I'd be afraid of getting the nibs all ruined with the pencil pigment. So I'm just going ahead and I'm alternating the 3 different colours, the pink, the purpley grey and the turquoise, and I'll leave a list of all the supplies and the numbers of the Copic markers down below in the description box if you're interested in that. And I've chosen to colour her scarf with the turquoise colour because I really want, I want the turquoise to be the colour that stands out the most, and then the other 2 colours, the purple and the pink, are sort of the blending and the accent, the background colours. And so I'm just going in and I've colour blocked the 3 little panels and the girl, and you can also go in, if you only have a couple of markers, you can go in with the same colour again. You need to let the first layer completely dry, but because markers are transparent, you can go in again and you can add an extra layer or a couple more layers of shading just using that same marker, so you can get quite a lot of use just out of one marker. Now I'm using the coloured pencils, and I'm just going to use a selection of coloured pencils to add in the shadows, and I'm starting out first with a purple, and on the face I use a lot of different colours. I'm using purples, I'm using several different browns, I have a pink as well that I'm using, and I'm just sort of layering up the colours and blending the colours together until I get the depth of shadow that I want. And the coloured pencils go on really well over the Copic marker. Another way that I've used coloured pencils and markers myself is in the past when I've done a coloured pencil piece, sometimes it takes a long time to fill up, to lay a flat layer of colour down with coloured pencils. And in order to speed up the process, I've often gone in first with a Copic marker or a marker And you could do the same thing with watercolour as well. You just go in with a marker and you just colour that, lay down a layer of colour, and then do everything else with coloured pencils, and it just helps to fill in the tooth of the paper, to fill in the white of the paper, and it can really help speed up the process if you're working in coloured pencils. And so I've used markers and coloured pencils like that before as well, because it can just really help the whole process to speed up as well. And I also particularly like the texture that coloured pencils give to this style of colouring. You can get a lot, you can not only add the shadows, but you can also get a lot of really nice texture over the markers. Now, one of the things that I am using here is the colourless blender to blend the pencils together a little bit, and the colourless blender works really well blending the coloured pencils, and it just helps to kind of just smooth them out and help them to blend in to the marker base layer. And I'm using the colourless blender because I'm not worried about messing up the nib of the colourless blender, because I really don't use the colourless blender for blending the markers. I hardly use it at all. And if you were worried about ruining a nib, you could always get a cheaper colourless blender, so maybe a Pro marker, or any colourless blender for markers would work with this technique, and you can use that to blend the coloured pencils into the marker layer underneath, and that works really nicely. So here I'm just going in, I added some shadows around the scarf and in the hair, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of extra shadow and dimension to the back panels. And I thought this would be a nice video today, because I know quite a few of you picked up this calendar during the fundraiser, and I thought it'd be nice to colour in the November page together. So if any of you have the calendar and you are looking for some ideas, then maybe this video will give you some ideas. And if you did like this video, then I could do the December page as well, and I could make it a little bit of a series on the channel as we go forward. And now I've added a little bit of shading to the background panels, and added a little bit of a drop shadow around the different boxes, because this is a sort of a layered illustration. So the girl is the foreground element, and then there's the box behind it, and then the background panels behind everything else. And I'm just going in with my white paint pen and adding some final highlights, and now I'm going in with my fine liner and I'm writing in the days of the month. And because this is an open calendar, you can start using it whenever. You just write in the days of the month, and I'm going to be using this calendar to plan out my YouTube video content schedule, and I'm going to put it up in my art desk. So that's the November page. And talking of schedules, I hope to be launching a new series next week, I'm hoping. It's been a while getting my new equipment in place, but I am pretty much back on track now, so hopefully I'll have a new video series for you next week, which I hope you'll all enjoy. And until then, I hope you have a creative week. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.